regardless of what you consider tomatoes and avocados, they're a fruit. Horticulturally. Now, simple fruits are the fleshy ones that have only, a single ovary. Then you get into the aggregates. Aggregate fruits like strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, that they're multiple little tiny fruits, that make up the berry. Each one of those is a separate blossom, all on a single stem. Or you have multiple fruits. I'm sorry, I said that wrong one. Single flower with many ovules is the aggregate. And then the multiple fruit is pineapple. Each one, the circular things on the pineapple, each one of those congeals from a separate blossom, but it's all on the same fruit stem, all on the same stem. A fig, you guys ever eaten a fig? Look at the inside of it. The inside of that fig is your blossom. I thought I'd put that in. Okay, save seeds. Saving seeds is some things you want to think about. Hybrid plants, you can save the seed of hybrid plants, but you may not get the same plant that you grew initially. And even if you do get, it may not set seed, like I said a while ago, even if you do save seed, get seed, if the plant does set seed, and you try to grow it, the siblings up from that seed, if they sprout, may not all be the same. So if you want to save hybrid seed, you can. You should not save seed from legally protected plants. And by that, we mean patented plants. More and more you're getting into the patented plants as well as patented seed now. And of course, I'll get into that in just a minute. And then you can't, of course, save seed from sterile plants. Like I mentioned earlier, lilies, some of the lilies, some of the newer varieties of echinacea that have the fuzzy tops on them, raspberry jazz or whatever they're called, may be sterile as well. Some of the sunflowers are sterile because they can't produce seed. Okay, PVP, right here, plant variety protection, protected. You can use it. It'll be on the tag that comes with your plant. Make sure you look at the tag on your plant. Legally, you're not supposed to sell those plants to anybody else. You can collect the seed if it has seed. Sometimes the PVP pertains only to an asexual reproduction. You can't cut and take shoots off of it. Sometimes it's the seed itself, so you need to know what that is. Utility patent. Oops. It'll have a patent number, and usually it's getting into the millions now, but a number after it. And the utility patents are a seed that's been patented, and it pertains more to agricultural crops right now. Cotton, wheat, corn, soybeans, and you're probably not going to get into that too much. You can save it for yourself. But fundamentally, farmers cannot save seed anymore if they start out with patented seed. If they get their seed from Monsanto, for instance, Monsanto will say, okay, you can have this, but you can't save it, and so you'll have to buy new seed next year, which is expensive for him. Okay, this is in Johnny's catalog, and this shows you the patent information down here. It also, this is actually a different one, but here's a PVP, and that may be all it says, but you need to know that. And it will give you the number, and in that case, if you buy Salanova lettuce and plant it, don't let it go to seed. saving seed. Pollination is important. You need to know that how pollination occurs with your plant. Is it wind? Is it does the bees do it? Do butterflies and moths at night? You know, it's interesting to know that, so you know how to attract it's pollinated and how to deal with that. The scheduling of when pollination occurs, you need to know that. It's you know when it blooms, bloom time. Does it bloom in spring? Does it bloom in summer? Where does your corn crop bloom? Your white corn, does it bloom the same time as your yellow corn or your sweet corn versus your Indian corn, that kind of thing. So it's important to know when your plant is going to be blooming. If you save seed, cross-pollination could be a problem, not necessarily, and it's probably going to not be a problem if you're just saving for yourself. If you think you might have cross-pollination, you need to know your genus and species for the plant that you're growing. Be it, people always ask me about squashes crossing. If they are the same genus, same species, Cucurbita pepo, all Cucurbita pepo varieties will cross with each other, but they will not cross with the Cucurbita maximus or the Cucurbita moschatus. And there are things in the pepo group that you would think would be with pumpkin group or the other group. But you can minimize this by several methods. Isolation, keep that plant. If you think it's going to cross, don't plant your cucumbers next to your squash if they're the same variety or species, sorry. Okay, you can distance them, and there are distances for each type, and they are not the same necessarily. You may have to keep plants a mile apart to keep them from wind pollinating each other. Corn does that some, as you may have heard of that case up in Washington where a GMO crop cross-pollinated with a farmer's organic crop, and he was sued. Okay, plant only one variety if you don't know. Whether you're far enough apart. There are tables out there, and most of the nurseries have them that will tell you how far apart they have to be. If you're going to save those seeds and you want to try it, there are several things that Suzanne Ashworth's book goes over. You can cage them. You'll have to either hand fertilize them or rotate the cage or put bees in the cage such that it gets to be a big problem. If you want to, you can put the bag over your bloom if it's been pollinated, or if it hasn't been hand pollinated again, and then tie that bag up or net and let it mature. Okay, when you prepare your seed, you've got your seed. There are two different types, wet and dry seed. Most of what you're probably going to be dealing with, except for tomatoes, are going to be dry. You should let the pods get thoroughly dry. They usually will change from green to brown, and they will be dry to the touch. They may start opening up. The seeds may start rattling inside, and those are good indications that the seeds are going to be ready. Let them get as dry as you can afford to before picking them. Green seeds will not necessarily grow. They will not be mature enough to give you a good plant. If you have things like herbs or something that have real humble tops on them, Let those dry as much as you can afford to. Cut the stems and put them into a paper bag, upside down in a paper bag, and that will catch the seed as it falls out. It's a good way to do onions and any of the other alliums. Once they're dry, then you can shake the seeds around and get it off. Get the seeds out, and then you just pour it in the pan and winnow the chaff away, or blow across a high plate, or put it in front of the fan. Usually your seeds will be mature after about 4 to 6 weeks after it blooms. Just keep an eye on it. Put a note on your calendar or whatever. Okay, wet seed. They talk a lot about wet seed. The only thing I've ever done with tomatoes, and tomatoes are really easy to do, but take them out, put all the gel and the seeds, you squeeze them into a jar or a little dish or whatever you have that's appropriate. And let them set for 2 to 3 days, and they will get a icky, sticky, smelly mold on top of them. Leave that mold there until it fully forms. And then what I do is pour them into a little tea strainer, because I don't usually have more to fill that. And then you just swish them around in the tea strainer to get the gel and the pulp out, and the seeds come out real nice. Take a strainer and flip it upside down on a glass plate, or I use a piece of foil. If you use paper towel, the seeds stick to it once they dry, and then it's awful trying to get them off. Wax paper, I've tried, they stick to that some too, and it's harder to get them off, although it is better. Once you have your seeds collected, and then are saving them as well, make sure you've labeled all your seeds immediately. I can't tell you how many times I've lost seeds because I couldn't remember what they were. If you're doing, like, after Tomato Fiesta, we do tomatoes, so we'll have 10 or 20, varieties, and if they aren't labeled, once they're done, you can't tell a black crayon from a Cherokee purple seed, even a green zebra. So make sure you label it throughout your process. And it is important. Okay. Other wet seeds are easy to do. Your pumpkins, you cut them open, your squash, just scrape the seeds out, scrape the pulp out, pull the strings off, and let them dry. Now, some of your peppers, not peppers, your melons, your squashes, let them go way past maturity if you really want a mature seed. Or you get a zucchini this big, you can probably save the seeds from that. But the seeds need to be well formed. Pumpkins are probably okay after they've been picked because the vines have died down. And when you do your October pumpkin, you can save those seeds fairly well. Peppers, let the peppers get dry. You can get plants from like bell pepper seeds that you just cut open to use for your salad, but it's better to let them turn brown, and by then the fruit will be probably dry or rotting, one of the two. But let the seeds get mature. Chili, the chili peppers up north, the reesters, let them hang and let the chili get dry. Eggplants and cucumbers are a little bit different. They have to be well mature, past the eating stage. Your eggplants will start turning yellow and brown, purplish color. Your cucumbers will turn yellowish. But you do them the same way. Just cut them open and scrape out the seeds and get the pulp off and put them to dry. Okay. You can save wildflower seeds. Several things, you know, if you go out, you're hiking, you want to save wildflower seeds, it's good. You can save wildflowers from any public land, supposedly, is what I've been told. If it's private land, you need to try and find the owner of the land and ask permission. That's only courtesy. If the plant, if you know what the plant is, great. You know, you can ID it. If you don't know what the plant is, look around, find some plants similar to it that may still be in bloom, and that will help you identify it. If not, kind of take a picture of it. You know, we all have cell phones nowadays. Take a picture of it so you can, you know, put it on Blossom or whatever the other one is. If the plant does not have seed pods yet, mark it if you want to come back and pick it up later. Pick the seed up later. Put a ribbon around the bottom of it or whatever, somehow to mark it so that you can get it later. And that gives you also an opportunity to identify it. If you are in a stand of plants, don't take any more than about a third of the plants available. And don't take all seed from any plant. Take only about a third to a quarter of the seed from each plant, and then only from a third to a quarter of the plants in the stand. If you are in a stand of regulated plants, don't take those. Don't take a seed from any of those. What's the word? You pick only dry seeds. Don't pick seeds from the endangered plants or rare plants, rare and endangered. There are lists for each state on those. Usually your Native Plant Society has a list, possibly, but your Department of Agriculture will too. Endangered and rare plants should not be picked, because that seed is needed to maintain that population. Okay, you ready to package? You got your seed all dry. Hopefully, make sure it's dry, to a point. And there's a question I always get asked, should I put them in paper or plastic? And I say, I don't care. There's pros and cons to both. Paper lets the seeds breathe, but plastic keeps them from being in humidity. You can put them in paper. It's easier to write on paper. You can use a pen on plastic. Excuse me. Put your envelopes into a glass jar, put the lid on. That will keep them out of the humidity, and you tend to avoid some of those problems. Refrigerate your seeds down to no less than 35 degrees, and in my mind, a refrigerator is kind of humid, but I just keep mine in a jar. If you're going to be keeping them for a long time, and all the seed banks do that, they freeze their seeds, but that may tend to destroy the germination ability to a certain extent. Again, label them when you put them in your seeds, in your packets. Label. The common name is great, but the Latin name is better. Start learning your Latin names, because there are a whole bunch of different kinds of bluebells, you know. But the common name, or the Latin name, will tell you specifically what it is. And if it's a specific variety that you're saving out of your garden, label, put that on as well, so that you know, well, this is Zinnia canary versus Zinnia lilliput. And then the date you collected is important. It doesn't necessarily have to be this month, day, and year. Just a month and the year will do. because there are certain dates after which that seed is not going to be very good. And then delete your seeds after a while. There are tables, like I said, that will tell you how long to keep certain seed. And I can tell you those tables are not always necessarily right. I've gotten a good crop from seed that supposedly was at the expiration date. Okay, storage. Dark, cool, and dry as much as possible. An interesting fact that seeds, and I still have trouble with this concept, the seeds respire. They take in and give off oxygen down to a certain point. And once they get to that point, they become what's called dormant. But different seeds have different levels at which they retain moisture. Those seeds are grouped into two groups: desiccation tolerant and desiccation intolerant. The desiccation tolerant seeds are the drier seeds and will last longer, and you can keep them longer. And I don't know if you need to necessarily remember this, but the concept is there. Desiccation intolerant seeds are ones that do not tolerate being dried out for a long time and must be planted right away. Avocados. Don't save your avocado seed for a year and then expect it to grow, because it won't. There are most of your vegetables, most of your yard flowers are going to do okay. I grow hardy hibiscus. Hardy hibiscus seeds are one of those in the lower group. They need to be planted within a certain amount of time, a couple months. I once had some seeds, got a seed for a Venus flytrap, and it wouldn't grow because I had kept it for a couple months. The directions said plant it right away. A lot of the softer seeds, like avocados, a lot of the tropicals, plivia seeds, and those other ones that I mentioned need to be planted sometime soon. And you have to look it up. There's some like amaryllis, I think, also fall in that group. There's some seeds, though, that last forever and ever. I don't know if you heard about it, the Methuselah date they found in the tombs back in the Middle East somewhere. And they thought, well, let's see if this seed will grow. And it grew. There's a date palm in the Middle East that grew from seed that was approximately 1,000 years old or so. So it's not always dormant, but it was probably preserved fairly well. Flower seeds, some flower seeds do not last very long. We found that out in the greenhouse. Others will last for a while, but some seeds will not. In your garden, think about how your seed naturally, when it blooms and how it comes back. If it blooms and dies and seeds over the winter, probably means that it will come up in the spring. Okay. Seed storage, we've pretty much gone over that. But you need to make sure that your seed is dry. See, and I lost seed this way. Seed that's not dry will get moldy, or that's left in a high humidity environment. It will get moldy, and it's no good after that. So make sure it's dried thoroughly before you package it up and put it in a jar, or put it in a plastic bag. You may want to use a desiccant. You can get that at the craft stores, floral stores. I have seen suggestions that you can use rice. Put a little bag of rice in a paper towel so that it doesn't touch your seeds, but that will wick the moisture. Or another suggestion I saw was powdered milk. It doesn't do it as well. But if you put a little bit of powdered milk in a paper towel bottom, folded inside the jar. Okay, keep your seeds on the cool side. And if you're getting successive, plantings, and you're saving the seeds from all those plantings, rotate your stock and use your oldest seed next year, and keep your newest seed, unless you're, going to plant it for some other reason, like different color or whatever. Okay, here's the references. I mentioned the first three are the books I showed you. Some other Seed Savers Exchange, seedsavers.org is extension, several of the extensions I haven't visited. The University of New Hampshire, the University of Minnesota have some good growing guides on them, give you specific dates. Joe Gardner's site, that's Growing a Greener World, has a list of seeds and when they grow. And then RockyMountainSeeds.org is a good website as well. And most of the seed houses, nurseries, when you get seeds, will have a list to some extent of how long or how to grow them or whatever.